Hi, Akanksha. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good as well, thanks. So we'll dive right into the case then.
Sure, sounds good.
Great. So for this case, your client is a washing machine manufacturer who is facing a decline in profits, and the client wants you to understand why exactly.
Okay. So, if I understand the problem correctly, our client is
Mm-hmm.
a washing machine manufacturer. They are
Mm-hmm.
facing a decline in profits, and they want us to help them understand why that is happening. So,
Precisely. Yeah.
sure. So, just to understand the problem better, I'd like to ask a few preliminary questions and then proceed
Mm-hmm.
with solving the case. So,
Sure. Go ahead.
yeah. So first, I'd like to understand for how long have the profits been declining, and what has been the magnitude of this decline?
So the decline has been for a couple of years, and we've been seeing a decline of close to 10%.
Okay, understood. And also wanted to understand what does the product mix of the client look like? Like, do they have a range of washing machines, or is it one specific type of washing machines that they manufacture?
It's majorly middle segment washing machines. It does not cater to the high-end washing machine market. But having said that, it is currently the market leader in the mid segment washing machine.
Understood. That is helpful.
Mhm.
So, given that the client is the market leader, just wanted to understand if the competitors in the industry are facing a similar problem of decline in profits, or is this problem specific to our client?
No, I think the competitors are doing just fine. This is something that is specific to the company.
Understood. So, also wanted to understand what is the geography in which our client is operating?
Majorly in the western part of India, you can say the states of Maharashtra and Gujarat, majorly some parts of Rajasthan.
Um,
But yeah, not a very strong presence otherwise.
got it. And the decline, I'm assuming, is uniform across these states. The
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. So also wanted to understand where the client lies in the value chain. I understand that we are a manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
Do we also do the distribution and the retail, or are we restricted to manufacturing?
Yeah, so the client majorly focuses on manufacturing and it then passes the product on to distributors who then sell them to retailers. So, yeah, you could say only manufacturing.
Understood. So I think I have all the information I need to proceed with the case. So I'll just take a few
Mm-hmm.
seconds to structure my thoughts, and then we can go ahead and solve the case.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. So as I see it, profits are essentially a function of the revenue and the cost. So
Mm-hmm.
since the client has been facing a decline in profits for the past 2 years, so it could either be a result of a decline in revenues or an increase in the costs, or it could be a combination of both of these things. So just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to understand what are have we seen any of these happening in the past 2 years?
So let's focus on revenues for now. There's been no change in cost as such.
Okay, understood. So, I'll just take a few minutes to structure my thoughts on how we can
Mm-hmm.
break down the revenue and understand the problem further.
Yeah, take your time.
Right. So as
Mm-hmm.
I see it, revenue are a function of the price and the number of units sold. Do we, I mean, I know we discussed this earlier, but do we have different kinds of products, or is it a single kind of product? Because in that case, the price and the quantity of units sold might be different across products, and we might need to add that. to the equation.
Let's just assume we have one product for now.
All right. Right. So, have we been seeing a decline in the average price? Or have we been seeing a decline in the quantity of units sold, which has been leading to a decline in the revenues of the firm?
So there's been no changes in prices in the past couple of years.
Understood. So, it's fair to assume that the quantity of units sold has
Mhm.
declined, which has
Yeah,
essentially led to a
totally.
decline in the revenues. Right. So to understand the decline in the quantity of revenues, I would like to break it down in terms of the customer journey to purchasing a washing machine. That is, from the lens
Okay.
of the customer, how does the customer approach the process of buying a washing machine? So I'll just take a few seconds to list down my structure, and then we can deep dive further
Mm-hmm.
into that. Right. So as I understand the customer journey, this is the rough flow that we typically see in the customer journey. So it starts with
Mm-hmm.
the need for the product. Like, does the customer actually need the product in the first place? Then it's about awareness. Is the customer aware about our product? Do they know what kind of promotional schemes that we have? What kind of different varieties of products that we offer? Next is the
Mm-hmm.
accessibility. Is the product actually able to reach the customer? Do they have access to the product? Are they able to purchase the product or not? Next is the affordability. Is the customer
Mm-hmm.
able to afford the product? And lastly, we have the customer experience. What is the overall experience of the customer in terms of the services
Okay.
provided by the firm, and other after sales services, etc. So, just wanted to understand, if it's okay with you, I'd like to sort of deep dive into each of these and understand which of these could be leading to the decline in quantity sold. Or if you'd like me to focus on
Mm-hmm.
any particular aspect of this, then we could do that as well.
Sure, sounds good. I think you can start by giving an initial hypothesis and maybe deep diving on each of these.
Sure. Great. That sounds good. So
Mm-hmm.
starting with the need, so given that our competitors in the market have not faced any decline as such, in
Mm-hmm.
quantity sold and or in their revenues, and given that we are a market leader in the firm, so I would think that this is not an issue of need. Also given our
Mm-hmm.
target segment of the middle class population, as per my understanding, most middle class households nowadays use washing machines, and since we cater particularly to that segment, there shouldn't be a lack of need. So, is it safe
Mm-hmm.
to say that need does not seem to be the problem here in terms of the quantity of units sold?
Yeah, I think that's a good assumption, especially in the past 3 years. In fact, the company has seen an increase in need because of COVID. Most
And
people in middle class Indian households, they couldn't have house help, and the need has in fact gone up. Yeah.
okay, great, that sounds good. Next is the awareness. So, awareness comprises of, again, as I mentioned, whether the customer is aware of our product or not. So, it's a function
Mm-hmm.
of whether we have any promotional schemes that are in place to help customers better understand the product and the use of the
Mm-hmm.
product. So it can either be that we have sort of our promotional schemes have gone down, or the competitors are promoting better, which is why people are preferring to purchase the products of the competitors. So has
Okay.
anything like that happened in the past 2 years?
No, I wouldn't say there's been a change in any promotional campaigns as such.
Understood. So, moving on to the next part of the customer journey, which is accessibility. So,
Mm-hmm.
accessibility is primarily concerned with distribution. That is, how does the product reach the end customer? What are the channels of distribution? So, have we seen any issues with our distribution network, with our distributors, our retailers, that could be leading to the product not reaching the end customer?
Yeah, so there have been reports of the distributors being unhappy with our products. They're not giving a push, so to say, to the products of the client.
Right. So, To understand, typically what we have seen is that distributors take a margin from the manufacturer. So the reason that the distributors are unhappy could be because they are not getting enough margin from the client, or I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
could be a pull issue that there's not enough demand in the market. But since we have already established that the need and the awareness is there, then is it safe
Mm-hmm.
to assume that it's an issue of margins, that we are not able to offer enough margins to the distributors?
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I think it is an issue of margins. So what exactly do you want to know more about margins that could maybe help you
Right.
Get to the root cause?
Right. So in terms of margins, I would firstly like to understand, has there been a change in the margins that we have been offering to the distributors in the past 2 years? Or has there been a change in the margins that the other competitors are providing, which is leading to the distributor pushing the products of the competitors rather
Mm-hmm.
than our products? So
What would your hypothesis be?
My initial hypothesis would be like we would have no reason as such to reduce our margins. My
Exactly.
initial hypothesis would be that it is that the competitors might have increased the margins that they are offering to distributors.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So in fact, since we're the market leader, in order to sort of capture some share of the markets, the competitors in fact raised their margins to 7%, whereas we've kept them constant at 4% for the distributors.
Understood. So I think this seems to be an interesting point, and
Mm-hmm.
possibly one of the root causes for the decline in quantity sold that we are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is the primary reason for the decline in quantity sold, or should I
Yeah,
also explore the affordability and the customer experience aspects of the customer?
I think we're at the root cause, but are you sure if we increase margins, that will say uh, make us win back the market share? Are you absolutely sure about that?
Right. So I'm not absolutely sure about that, because an increase in margin would also
Mm-hmm.
lead to a decline in the price that we are receiving, from the end price that we are receiving, and
Okay.
that could also lead to a further decline in profitability compared to what we are already seeing.
Yeah.
So for that, I would like to check if we have any data regarding the price and the quantity sold, possibly 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago when this decline started, and in the
Mm-hmm.
current scenario. Any data regarding this which would help us understand
Sure,
that.
sure. So why don't you write down a few numbers?
Sure.
So let's say that the cost to us, the company, for manufacturing each unit is 14,000 rupees, and that's constant across years. We've seen no inflation. But we have 2 years, and in the year 2021, we sold around a lakh units, and in 2023, we're selling 90,000 units. And also the price to the dealer, the price at which we were selling it to the dealer, that has remained constant at 18,000 rupees as well.
Understood. Right. So I'll just take a quick look at the numbers and try to calculate
Mm-hmm.
the profitability and see if the margins would have any impact on the profit
Sure,
figures.
take your time.
Sure. Right. So taking a quick look at the numbers, what I can see is that the margin is approximately at 4,000. And in
Mm-hmm.
2021, we were seeing a profit of about 40 crores. Whereas in 2023, we are seeing a profit of about 36 crore. And obviously, it is driven by the decline in the quantity sold. So now what we have to see is if we sort of increase the margin from 4% to
Mm-hmm.
7% in 2023, what would be the impact on the profits. So do we have an
Yeah.
idea of how many units we could potentially sell, if we increased our profit margins to 7%?
Do you want to take any assumptions?
So an initial assumption could be that we could go back to the original quantity sold that we had 2 years ago, since the rest of the
Okay,
parameters have remained the same. So that could be an assumption regarding that.
great. If you take that assumption, where does that lead us then?
Right. Um, So in terms of if we reduce the margins by 3%, that would also lead to a 3% reduction in the price that we are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So, the price was 18,000, and now the price that we would be getting would be reduced by 3%. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that would roughly be about 17,400. And I think in that case, the profit figures that we would see in 2023 would roughly be at 34 crores. So
Mm-hmm.
and so this tells us that increasing the margin actually declines the profits further, even more than what they have declined as a result of increase in the decrease in the quantity sold. So it doesn't really make economic sense to increase the margins because we are just reducing our profits even more. So we might have to think of some alternative recommendation in this case.
Okay.
So I'll
Yeah,
just
I think that's a very thorough analysis. Why don't we end this case with a couple of recommendations on what the company should do instead?
Sure. I'll just take a minute to write down the recommendations and then we
Sure.
can discuss them. Right. So in terms of recommendations, apologies, I think there's a lag in the screen. So
Mm-hmm.
that is not visible, but I'll just say it out verbally. So in terms of the recommendations, there are a couple of things I think we can do in the short run. So what we can do is one way is that we can bypass the distributors since they are demanding higher margins. We can bypass the distributors and sell directly to the retailers who would then eventually sell it
Mm-hmm.
to the end consumers. Obviously, that would involve other caveats, like we might have to have some agent who can liaise with the retailers,
Yeah.
and also the retailers might also demand some margins. So we would have to take that into account as well. But that could be one
Mm-hmm.
option that we could explore in the short run. Apart from that, another thing we could do is we could sell directly on e-commerce platforms. So these days, it has several customers rely on e-commerce for purchase of electronics. So that could be one avenue that we can tap into. Um, so that could be one potential solution that we could explore in the short run. In the long run, maybe we could think of setting up our own distribution facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Set up our own systems of distribution rather than relying on third parties to get us to the customers. So that is my overall recommendation. So yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good, Akanksha. I think we can close the case here. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I think I'll go ahead and provide feedback to Kansha for the audience's benefit. So we'll start from the preliminary questions. Preliminary questions were pretty comprehensive. I think she implicitly used the 3C1P framework, and most of it was covered. Just one more good practice that anyone could follow is whenever we get a 2 or 3 year timeline, maybe we can just ask a question if it's current day and if we can take COVID into account. So that just gives more perspective into if we should take, have that at the back of our mind if COVID should be taken into account. But otherwise, pretty good with preliminary questions. Coming to the solving part, she started pretty well and very well structured in the sense that she started with profits and costs, and she further broke down profits into quantity, price. Once she got to know that it was quantity, she directly jumped into a value chain approach, which is perfect. So whenever we're applying a value chain approach, she used the need, accessibility, awareness way of doing it. One more alternative way of doing it could have been the pre, during, post, where we could have taken any part of the journey as during, and then we everything before that goes into pre and vice versa. So that is up to the case solver or the interviewee as to how he or she wants to do it. But yeah, both the approaches work pretty well. And some other feedback is the part where she picked out the increase in need, that need is not an issue. Similarly, awareness should not be an issue. Stating your initial hypothesis in such cases always looks good, instead of asking questions to the interviewer. So it's always nice to state your hypothesis and say, maybe take a green light from the interviewer on proceeding with that assumption. Uh, she worked out the accessibility part where maybe distribution could have been an issue. Another options that we could have considered was maybe if the retailer was the issue or distributor was the issue. But yeah, that was isolated pretty well in that sense. Finally, the quantity there was a bit of quantitative stuff in the case, which was done very well as well. So most of these parts are asked by interviewers to judge the analytical capability of the interviewee, and it's always best not to panic in such cases, even if one is not very confident about the numbers. It's about thinking from first principles. And recommendations, of course, they were practical yet innovative. So in that sense, a case pretty well done. I think we can close the feedback as well. Thank you so much.